Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be talking about 5 pieces of lost media. Let's begin. The Television Ghost was a television show that aired from August 17th, 1931 to February 15th, 1933 on W2XAB, now known as WCBS TV in New York City. It is considered to be the first ever horror show to have aired on television. This show followed a man wrapped in a white sheet as he explained every episode about the story of a different person who had been murdered. These stories are fictional, mind you, but each episode had him explaining the story of a different person who was murdered. The show aired at 8 p.m. and ran for 15 minutes each episode. The show was also concurrently aired on the radio and is fully lost. At the time, there was no form of recording television shows. Those wouldn't exist for several years later down the line, as only really mechanical television existed, which was a very rudimentary and basic form of television that was extremely low quality in camera, and many radio broadcasts weren't recorded. Now, the only reason why we know about the show is because of the various programming guides that existed at the time and newspaper articles that mention it. Many of these newspaper articles actually include photographs of the man in the white sheet, which allows us to know what he would have looked like on the show if you had really seen it in the 1930s. So we know what the man looked like during this time, what he looked like on the show, and what his costume did. But besides that, we have no other kind of source of what the show actually would have entailed. But from what seems, it was a simple show of a man talking to the camera, which is how many shows were during this time. Number 2. Piano Lessons. Piano Lessons aired from October 8th, 1931 to sometime in 1932. The exact date of when the show ended is unknown. It aired on the same channel as The Television Ghost and was hosted by a professor known as Giuseppe Aldo Randiger. And the show lasted for 30 minutes initially, during its original 9 p.m. slot, though later on in its broadcasting history, it was trimmed down to being only 15 minutes, and had its airing begin at 8:15, right after The Television Ghost. Of course, we know what the man looked like as we have photographs of this professor, so if you want to look him up, you can see what he looked like, but we don't have any photos of the show. We only have a few mentions of it. Most of what we know about it comes from the programming listings. There are far fewer mentions of piano lessons than The Television Ghost, most likely because The Television Ghost was much more exciting than Piano Lessons. And the name of it gives it away. It's simply just Piano Lessons. But I don't know how much you can learn from piano lessons in only 15 minutes, but I don't know. I'm not a piano player, I'm a guitarist. Number 3, Pyramid. Pyramid was a 1978 arcade game made by the Japanese company known as Sankyo, and was released in Japan. The game was a sequel to their previous game, Castle Take, and had an Egyptian theming to it. There were at least 3 levels to the game, all of which featured at the very top of the screen a bust of Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. And there were other levels, such as a peasant level, which featured 2 peasants on either side of the screen, and a falcon level, which featured 2 falcons. Now, we have various screenshots of the game, and even a advertisement for the game. And we know that there were 2 variations made for it. A upright version, which is the common form of an arcade game you'll typically see, and a cocktail table version, a less commonly seen variation of arcade games, but were popular during the 1970s and 1980s. These versions had you sit down, and of course allowed space for you to place your drinks on it. And now we actually have footage of this game, actually, as in 2014 on a television show known as Game Center CX. Footage of it is surfaced, but no other evidence of this game has surfaced since 2014. So besides from these screenshots, the advertisements, and the small bits of footage we have of it, no ROM, no more, nothing of it has surfaced. So the chances of it surfacing aren't impossible. We know at least there's at least one working cabinet out there somewhere in Japan, but besides that, it will most likely be a while before we ever find this game. Its predecessor, Castle Take, is also lost. Too Much TV was a television show that aired in Britain, officially the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, on Channel 5's The Core. And it aired from March 5th to June 4th, every Sunday, except for the Sunday of April 16th. Now, it was a CGI animated show and ran for about 30 minutes. And now the show followed a group of 4 people, one of which was a robot, up in space, hosting Too Much TV. And this show covered topics such as video games, music, movies, and general technology. Now, there's very, very little information known about the show. We don't even have the names of the episodes. We only have 2 screenshots from the show, and they're extremely blurry and low quality. And all of the episodes are completely lost. No episode names. We don't know the name of the characters, that they were up on like some kind of ship or satellite in space and were running the show. But besides that and the characters, we have no idea what kind of happened in each episode. But except for the amount of episodes there were, because of from what we know when the show aired. But besides that, there's nothing at all. We can't even really garner anything from the few screenshots that we have, as they're so low quality that they don't really give us any information on what's happening. So the chances are being found is pretty slim. Maybe an episode or 2 will be found, or a few more screenshots, but it's very unlikely more will be found anytime soon. Number 5. The lost phonograph recordings. So Edward Leon Scott de Martinsville was a Frenchman who lived in the 1800s. Now, prior to the creation of Thomas Edison's phonograph, he invented the phonograph. Now, the phonograph was patented on March 25th, 1857. Now, the phonograph looks very similar to the phonograph, but functions very differently. Martinsville believed that audio could be read like how you would a book, and it transcribed the sounds of a person's voice and audio by marking it down into lines and scribbles that went up and down, depending on how loud or how low the sound was. And the idea is that you could, again, read it back like how you could read words on a book. These could not be played back at all, as during his time of life and the following years afterwards, it was completely impossible to play back any of the recordings that he made. He spent his entire life from the creation of the phonograph making recordings of all kinds of things. Singing, instruments, anything really. He had his hands on, he would record onto the phonograph, and it would carve down the sound waves of it, and recording the grooves of it. Again, these could not be played back. Now, according to legend, he actually traveled to the United States sometime in the 1860s during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln, and he recorded Abraham Lincoln giving his opinions on slavery. Now, many years later down the line in the 21st century, we began to be able to have the technology to actually bring back these recordings and play them back. And though over 100 years later, we can listen to these recordings. As for over 100 years, it was impossible to play this back, but now we can. But the thing is, many of these recordings we just can't listen to. We have the recordings that we can play are readily available online, and there's a video that we can listen to all of the recordings that are available. But there are recordings that he made that we can't play back, that we just can't. So his entire discography isn't available because some of them just aren't playbackable anymore. They're too degraded. They've fallen apart too much. Though all of the ones that could have been, have been, and you can listen to them. And there is no evidence for his alleged interview with Abraham Lincoln. So there is just no audio, and it's only mostly rumor and hearsay on the idea that he interviewed Abraham Lincoln in the 1860s. But there are some of recordings that he made that are lost and will never be found. Frankly, they're never going to be found because they're made over 100 years ago in the 1850s, 60s, 70s, and have degraded too much to be able to be played back, even with the modern technology that we have that allow the other ones to be played back. And there's just no evidence of Abraham Lincoln's interview. So, yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you all again sometime soon. Bye. Have a nice time.